Hello everyone. Welcome to the Game Week 4 live stream ahead of tomorrow's deadline. As always, streaming live the day before with a little bit less pressure before the deadline so we can get questions answered, we can have a bit of a chat. But I'm feeling the pressure a little bit more this week because I have decided that it is the right time for me at least to be using my free hit chip this week. So I've got a draft prepared. In fact, I've got 3 or 4 different combinations prepared to show you on this stream. I'll also walk through why I'm free hitting. A few different things have gone against me in the last couple of days that has tempted me to use the free hit, and I decided after a bit of planning this afternoon that it was the most sensible strategy for me and that I could gain an edge with it. But it doesn't have to be the same way for everyone. I will say, though, the injury news today has been particularly brutal. So we'll go through all of the injury news and the press conference updates as well, of course. If you're in the chat, do make sure you say hello. We've got quite a few people in there already. I'll try and keep up with it as best as possible. I've seen Im in the chat, Dan Wells, Daniel Wells, Mick Charman in there, Lloyd as well, Nixie as always. Good to see you all, Patrick too. I'll try and get through all of your questions throughout the show as well. So do make sure you drop them in the chat, and I'll try and answer you as best as possible. Also, if you did enjoy today's stream, I'd really appreciate it if you could just drop a like, hit subscribe as well, and that would be really appreciated. Without further ado, though, let's have a look at the situation my team, I nearly said issues, but the situation my team was in going into Game Week 4. So without any chips used, without a free transfer used, this was via Solio, how my team was set up. I was actually fairly happy with it. Baker in the chat as well. Hey mate, how's it going? Saw your stream with Harry the other day, which was fantastic as always. Yeah, so this is my team going into Game Week 4 as it currently stands, or as it stood today. It didn't look too bad if the likes of Saar and Strand Larsen were playing. They would have come in for Anderson and Murillo, of course. Would have been a 3-4-3. And overall, I was probably happy enough with it. I would have probably used my 1 free transfer to take out Murillo, play probably Munoz, maybe Lacroix, probably Lacroix, just so it set me up for a bit of a bench boost next week. I thought it looked relatively decent. However, with those 2 injuries, it did seem like an opportunity to maybe go on the front foot somewhat. There are plenty of good fixtures to be targeting, and I had very little exposure in those fixtures. With 1 free transfer, I could only get to 1 Crystal Palace. Obviously, I want a couple more of them against Sunderland. Salah is my only Liverpool asset away at Burnley. I had no Arsenal. I had no Newcastle either. No Man City, which was arguably another fixture that could be targeted. And a lot of players that were a little bit iffy. So João Pedro, there's a little bit of worry about his expected minutes going into the weekend. And as well, there's a knock that we have to worry about. So there was no guarantee even that I could rely on them to play, although João Pedro, I would imagine, is probably fine. But then Anderson coming off my bench, I've got 1 bench player who's actually playing, and that is Esteve, which again doesn't fill you with confidence ahead of Liverpool at home. It just seemed like the right week for me. So I have binned this team off for 1 game week, and I'll come back to them next week where it looks actually pretty decent. So if I bring it forward, let's reset the transfer so it's the actual team. So Murillo, Porro, Anderson next week. I mean, Sanchez would probably play ahead of Dubravka for me. If Saar was fit, it probably wouldn't be that far away from a bench boost side. And I think it looks okay-ish for next week. Obviously, I'd only have 1 free transfer now. So I'll come back to the squad looking like this ahead of Game Week 5. But that's not why we're here. We're obviously here to have a look at my free hit side and answer your questions as well. Before we do, let's have a look over at the injury news going into Game Week 4. So any of you who aren't already aware, we're going to run through some of the flags that were brought forward to us today. So Strand Larsen is confirmed out, at least for this game week. And the way that Pereira was talking doesn't fill me with confidence that he's going to be absolutely fine for next week. Although he did say trying to get back into training as soon as possible. So crossing my fingers. However, Other players include Sarr being out for 2 game weeks, likely back for Liverpool in game week 6. So misses the 2 plum fixtures that I bought him for, Sunderland and West Ham. I don't feel too hard done by. Obviously, he got me a goal last week, so I'm not, like, these things happen, right? I'm not going to get too annoyed by it. But outside of that, we've got Cunha out for this week. Aina over at Nottingham Forest out for 3 months by the looks of it, which is a bit gutting. Ait Nouri and Cherky are both out for this week, as is Marmoush for a few weeks, and Wissa has I think it's a knee issue from the international break that he's seeing a specialist over. So all of them are out for this week. Palmer is back in some training. They're going to assess him today, but if there's any doubt, he's probably not going to play. I would say it's unlikely he plays that much, if at all, mainly because they've got 3 away games after this away game, back to back to back, and some tough games in there. So Bayern Munich in the Champions League, they're going to probably want to save him for that, and then Man United shortly after that as well. So Palmer, I would imagine, gets rested, but no guarantees there, of course. Saliba has come back into training a lot quicker than Arteta and Arsenal expected, so he might play tomorrow, although I'd say it's still in doubt. And then the minor ones to monitor, the knocks. João Pedro coming back from South America, from Bolivia. Didn't play that many minutes on over the international break in the second game at least, but still a long way to travel. And Maresca said that all of the players coming from South America are at least doubts going into the weekend. I still think that João Pedro will start, but there is definite reason to believe that he'll come off early now, especially with those away games coming in the near future. So Esteval and Caicedo, both doubts for the same reason. I would imagine that Caicedo starts, Esteval a little bit less likely. Not too much ownership in either of those. And then you've got Isak, who is going to build up match fitness. I wouldn't expect him to be playing from the start this game week, or maybe even Everton either. But he will probably come in sooner rather than later. But I wouldn't be buying him for this week. Frimpong is obviously coming back from a little bit of a longer layoff, so will always be a little bit of a doubt. And Ndai as well was the surprise that maybe tipped me over the edge. Him being a slight doubt going into the weekend. David Moyes saying that he has a bit of a knock to contest with. All of that put together leaves me in a bit of a sticky situation. I've got Strand Larsen, Sarr and Ndai in my side. But hopefully that summarises the injury news fairly well for you. Nixie asks, is Saka still out? Yes, he's still out. Probably for another couple of game weeks by the looks of it, but we haven't got an exact timeline on when he returns just yet, but out for this week. Joel Goddard in the chat asks, start King or Reinders? Reinders, 1,000,000% for me. I really like Reinders for this week. Close to being on my free hit side, actually. I think he'll be playing in the 10. Man City predictors think that he'll start. And Man United's holding midfield is gettable. He can definitely take advantage of that. So I really like Reinders for this week. I'd definitely be starting him ahead of King. Leeds defence has actually not looked that bad outside of the Arsenal fixture so far this season either. So yeah, Reinders for me. So Nixie asks also, could Saka be an option on the free hit? Not at all. He looks like he's completely out for this week. Best time to wildcard is a question. I mean, this week is not a bad week. I did initially look at it a little bit at the start of the game week, just as a bit of a sense check more than anything else. But I decided that I don't personally have enough information or enough confidence in the information that we've got so far to press those buttons just yet. I felt that another couple of game weeks information for me was crucial. I'm looking at wildcarding in game week 6 or 7 now. I initially wanted to wait until game week 13, but I just don't know if I'm going to actually be able to hold on that long. So I think game week 7 is my most likely window. I think that's quite a nice transition moment when Arsenal's fixtures turn quite nice as well. And I might use a double transfer to get to Haaland in game week 6 before wildcarding, and then almost, I suppose, dead ending my team in a way, although it doesn't really look like that. I'll show my plans for that in a moment's time, of course. Any other questions in the chat at the moment? Also on free hit this week, what are your thoughts on Anthony Robinson? I don't mind him at all. Yeah, a little bit of a doubt. I guess that he might not start. I'll go back to my live screen here. I'm just going to check out Anthony Robinson's minutes so far, because he has been a little bit of a doubt throughout the season. No, only 2 points so far, 23 minutes off the bench against Chelsea. I probably wouldn't risk it. I think for me, Anderson and his upside with defensive contributions is enough to put me off taking the risk, potentially. So I'd go Anderson out of the two right now. But also, he's very good at his sort of, I was about to say long balls or hoofs up the pitch, but it's more tactical than that. I would imagine that Anderson could get some assists that way against Leeds or throughout the season. So I would say Anderson's got enough upside for me to just maybe not take the risk. So what else we got in the chat? So hoping Eze and Barnes start. Can see a couple of 1-pointers, or can see a couple of 1-pointers. I would be assuming that Barnes and Eze start, to be honest, but there are doubts with both, which is why neither of them are currently on my free hit. Barnes would be closer for me, but it's just how, having seen what he's capable of doing with changing the system, I'm just a little bit doubtful. But I would think that both would be starters this game week. Eze maybe a little bit more doubtful because he's still the new signing, but I would imagine Howe goes back to 4-3-3 and Barnes starts off the left. And if so, that is a great fixture against Wolves at home. So I wouldn't be too worried. Have enough in the bank to do Pedro to Gyökeres on free hits. I just know that Pedro will haul now. Yeah, I mean, let's go over, actually. This is a good opportunity for me to move across to my this is my current free hit draft going into game week 4. It does contain João Pedro, and I'm just a little bit worried that although I think he'll start, I can see that early sub. And if he goes off at 60 to 70, I think there are better options, considering that he might not be on penalties. Obviously, Enzo took the last one. I think there's a chance he takes the next one because it looked like he kind of gifted it to Enzo. If Palmer doesn't play, which I'm guessing he won't, then it's either Pedro or Enzo for pens. But at 60 to 70 minutes, considering their schedule coming up, considering he's a little bit of a doubt anyway, I do wonder if maybe I'm letting the ownership get to me a little bit and I'm putting him in just because it's more of a shield pick than a sword pick. So I'm looking at other options. I don't love too many other strikers, but I really like Gyökeres for this week, to be honest. So I would, on a free hit, if it was one or the other, I would be picking Gyökeres. On penalty, should get near to 90 minutes with a plum home fixture against a side that will probably be in transition a little bit under new management. I think that is a targetable game. And although Gyökeres hasn't looked stunning just yet, I think he's a bit of a flat track bully, and I think he'll get spaces in behind against Forest. So I like him enough that I would recommend him over Pedro on a free hit. But right now, if I knew Pedro was completely fit and was going to get 80 to 90 minutes, I'd have them both. But out of the two, I would prefer Gyökeres personally. So what else have we got in the chat? By the way, this is my current free hit side at the moment, so let me know what you think of it in the chat. And as always, if you are in the chat, do make sure you hit like, hit subscribe as well. It really would help me out. So Josh in the chat asks, sell Nico Williams to Munoz or Dorgu to Lacroix. Suppose it depends on future plans. I would probably say that long or medium term, Williams is the better hold, because if you're not free hitting in game week 6, Williams could be a starter in both game week 5 and 6 for you. Whereas Dorgu, I'd be less confident on because he seems more likely to rotate out of the side at regular intervals. But I don't know your whole side, and I don't know your chip strategy, so it's harder to tell. But just on the surface, if I presume no chips over the next few game weeks, I would say Dorgu to Lacroix, because Williams, although not ideal for this week, bench him this week, you've then got a Nottingham Forest player going up against promoted sides in the next 2 game weeks. Whereas with Dorgu, you don't get that. So I would say that out of the two. Should I take Rodgers out? I suppose who for, and in what scenario? Do you have any other moves? I would say leave him in unless you've got nothing else the matter with your side. I don't think he's that bad a pick, especially because, again, they've got 2 promoted clubs in the next 3 game weeks after this. So I don't think Rodgers is an immediate sell. I'm holding on to Watkins outside of free hit land. So Rodgers, I would give a fairly similar logic to. Nixie saying no Ekatike or Haaland is a bit surprising to me. Wait until you see some of my other drafts, because this is not locked in at the moment. Ekatike is in one of them, Haaland is in one of them, and there's not much separating any of them either. So I am playing... I'm kind of playing around with 3 positions in my free hit. I think 8 of them are relatively locked in. So my locked positions, or not locked, but fairly close to locked. Pope in goal. Very bullish on having a Newcastle defender on a free hit. Now Strand Larsen is out. Maybe even double as well. So Shah is in contention, but Pope for sure. In my defence, Gabriel, Munoz and Lacroix are pretty much locked in for me. Love the upside of Gabriel from set pieces, and obviously clean sheet odds are very good. Munoz and Lacroix, both clean sheet odds. Attacking threat from Munoz and defensive contributions from Lacroix. Also attacking threat from Lacroix from set pieces, very good for 5 million. So those 3 are probably locked in my defence. Then any other defenders are in flux. In my midfield, I'd say Gakpo and Salah are locked. I haven't moved them out of any free hit drafts at all. So they're both in. And then up top, I would say Gyökeres and Mateta are probably locked as well. So 8 spots are locked. I think that's 8. Yeah, that's 8. So at the moment in this draft, the other 3 spots go to Virgil van Dijk as my 3rd Liverpool, Semenyo as that 3rd midfielder, and then João Pedro up top. But that combination of 3 is very much up for debate. So this is draft number 1. But I am, especially with the doubts over João Pedro's minutes, I think I've slightly tweaked his expected minutes on Solio here. I've just brought them down slightly to about 86% for the starter. So I wouldn't say he's a major doubt. In fact, I might bring that back up as a starter to like 94, 95. And then I think around 60 minutes is where I'd start being a little bit worried. So I don't think he'll get 90. I think he'll probably come off 60 to 70, especially if the game's won as well. But that's still enough to make him a decent enough pick. I wouldn't be selling him if I had him in my side and I wasn't free hitting. It's just a little bit of a doubt for the expected minutes, and therefore there might be other attackers that I could target on a free hit that might get better, have better upside. So with João Pedro in mind, and with Semenyo at about 4.4 expected points, there are other options I like. So if I go over to option number 2 here, this is one, I think out of all of them, if I was to move across, this is one I do really like. So this is the triple Liverpool midfield. Now, I'm expecting the reaction in the chat to be fairly middling at best, but I really like this. So the sacrifice here is I'm losing Liverpool clean sheet. And I think Liverpool's clean sheet, if we go over to the fixtures here, this is obviously the market odds live from Solio. 47% is the strongest odds of a clean sheet joint with Arsenal. So I do want some Liverpool coverage as a clean sheet. However, and this is something that I am considering, if I triple up on midfield rather than going with Ekatike, I'm still kind of covering off the Liverpool clean sheet if they keep one. Because if I've got 3 midfielders, that's 3 clean sheet points across the 3, plus captaining Salah, that's a 4th. So if Liverpool do keep a clean sheet, then I'm currently with this draft kind of getting that clean sheet locked in with these 3 midfielders. Although I know, of course, if I removed Verts and got the clean sheet there, I'd get more points, and because I've still got Gakpo Salah, but it still does give me some coverage. I quite like this one. The reason I like it is because it removes the doubt over the minutes of João Pedro. I'm going really aggressive on what is the best fixture to target from an attacking point of view, especially with the XG expected for Liverpool 2.5 is far ahead of any other team this week. So again, I'm going on the front foot with that. Gakpo and Verts, I don't think there's much between them as options this week, and I would quite like Verts just because everyone seems to be going off of him right now, and I think this is the exact fixture where he could do quite well. He won't be dropping deep as often. He'll be playing in the final third, trying to unlock the defence, and because Burnley are expected to be pinned back, Verts is a guy who loves a shot from in and around the edge of the box. I think this is the fixture for him, so I am quite bullish on Verts this week. So tripling up on the midfield, keep Semenyo in there because I do like him, although there are alternatives with Semenyo that I am considering. And I've removed João Pedro, and where I've... So it's basically Wirtz versus João Pedro, and then kept Semenyo, and then traded Van Dijk for Schär. Now, with Schär, doubling up on Newcastle clean sheet, I think is going to be quite powerful as a differential this week. No one's going to have that. Schär's got goal threat. You can see the market odds updating in live time, by the way. I don't know if anyone caught that, but the numbers just changed ever so slightly, which is quite funny. That looks like Schär's odds of clean sheet went up slightly, so he's up to five expected points. That was really fun to see in live time, actually. I don't think I've ever caught that before. But yes, so the clean sheet odds for Newcastle are very good. They've just gone up to 47%. That will be because Strand Larsen's out. So I would quite like Newcastle clean sheet doubled up, but at least one. I understand. Ben, by the way, in the chat makes a good point that free hitting is about excitement as well, right? It is about fun, and free hitting with 4 or even 5 defenders, which is something I have considered, by the way, is just not that exciting. But I think this season needs to be treated a little bit differently with defenders. I think they are more powerful than ever before because we've got the defensive contributions. And this isn't just any regular game week either. This is a week where you've got a lot of teams with very good odds, higher than usual odds of a clean sheet. So you've got 4 teams with over 40% odds. Now, usually, if you've got any one team with over 40%, that's a team to be targeting defensively. So if we go to next week, there's only one team and they only just scrape 40%, and that is Liverpool at home to Everton. The week after that, you've got 2 teams. You've got one over 50%. That's great. Man City at home to Burnley. But after that, it's a drop-off and you've only got one other team above 40. The week after that, you've got 3 teams. So again, that's actually quite good. But again, it's a drop-off after that. And then after that, again, game week 8. I don't know if you can see. I'll just scroll that across. You've only got one team above 40. This game week, you've got 4 above 40. But not only that, you've also got some pretty expensive options in the forward lines that necessitate saving money elsewhere. So to save money elsewhere, you've got high expected points on some of the defenders that otherwise you'd just be playing a back 3 most weeks, right? But this week, you're averaging 4 to 5 points, expected points on all of these defenders, and in fact, quite a few other defenders. So although it's not exciting, I would say that there is upside in going with an extra defender this week and using that spare money, because defenders are really cheap at the end of the day. You get a lot of value for money there, and then you can spend extra money in your forward line. So like, if you look at all of my 6 attackers here, I've got Salah at 14.5. In fact, none of them are under 7 million. All of them are above 7 million. All of them are, in any other week, very difficult to get to as a combination. You usually have at least one 5.5, 6 million attacker in there. None of that this week, because I've gone with 4 at the back and all of them have high expected points. In fact, all of my defenders right now have higher expected points than João Pedro did, than Semenyo did, than I think pretty much, if I do a filter quickly on midfielders, I've already done that. There are only 3 midfielders above 5 expected points this week. And I know it's market odds and we shouldn't really look at it too closely and take it with a pinch of salt. But I think that does tell you something. Whereas with the defenders, you've got a few. You've got a fair few that are like right up there for expected points. So you've got 5.1 with Munoz. You've got 4.98 with Schär. Burns up there now. Van Dijk's up there. Gabriel's up there. Lacroix's up there. Competing at cheaper price points at around the same sort of expected points as the midfielders and some of the forwards as well, by the way. So top 2, you've got Gyökeres and Haaland. Very close, by the way. Not much in it there. And then after that, I think Voltemada, that's bullish. I wouldn't put him at 5.4. But then after that, you've got a bit of a drop-off after that top 5 as well, down to like 4.2, 4.3. So I think that's why I've gone with a little bit more in the defence. I don't think there's any drafts that I've liked that only have 3 defenders, mainly because there are just so many clean sheets I want to try and target this week. Okay, so I've missed a few comments in the chat, I'm sure. Would I consider any Man City players? This is a good time to go to the most rogue of drafts that I have, I think. And I am considering this. The expected points is a little bit lower. And actually, a good time to look at the bell curve at the bottom here, because it is still significantly above what the mean points for this week are. As you can see here, down the bottom, you've got this little bell curve. It's a distribution of expected points, basically. The crowd average is 7.3 points below what this would be expected to score, with a 37% chance, nearly 38% chance of me gaining over 10 points on the crowd, a 2% chance of losing 10 points on the crowd, but about an 80% chance of a green arrow as well at time of recording. Seems pretty decent. So still pretty bullish on this draft. It's 5 at the back. The reason it's 5 at the back is because I've squeezed in Haaland alongside Salah. Now, I really do like Haaland this week, but I don't know if he's 5 million better than a Gyökeres. And that 5 million does a lot with my team. As I just mentioned, that 5 million means that I've had to compromise even further and go with an extra defender, which is cheap, Anderson at 4.5. And then I've also had to compromise on my third midfielder by having Reinders instead of Semenyo. Now, that's not a big compromise, and I actually am very bullish on Reinders this week. But am I bullish enough that it's worth like taking out someone like a Semenyo? A few other options apply here, and also removing an extra attacker like a Gyökeres or a João Pedro, and obviously just one less overall. I'm not sure it is. So this would be probably my favourite free hit draft that contains both Salah and Haaland, but I just think there are too many sacrifices. So let me know in the chat, by the way, if you are free hitting, would you try and find Salah and Haaland in your draft? Would you try and find a way? For me, it's not worth it, in principle, because you can only captain one of them this week. If I was wildcarding, or if I had both of them just generally in my team, I'd be much more comfortable, because over the next 4 game weeks, you probably captain Salah twice, captain Haaland twice, and it balances out and there's value to having both of them. Whereas on a free hit, you can only captain one, and Haaland versus Gyökeres, there's a good chance that Haaland does very well against Man United, but there's also a very good chance that Gyökeres does well against Nottingham Forest as well. So I don't think there's enough in it for me that it's worth the 5 million extra and then downgrading elsewhere. So I think Haaland's the best of the strikers this week, but I don't think he's so far the best that it's worth me compromising elsewhere. So I've looked at this one. This is my draft with 3 Liverpool midfield. The other one that I like is, instead of Wirtz, go Ekitike up top, and then obviously Shah comes in for Van Dijk there. And I think I just have to, I've kept Semenyo, and I've just compromised on my bench a little bit more. So it's a different triple up for Liverpool midfield, Liverpool attack. And I really like Ekitike this week as well. I'm just a little bit concerned that Isak will get minutes. So not much in it there. Yeah, let me know whether you prefer this. There's nothing in it in terms of the expected points, by the way. There's like less than 1 point in between the first 3 drafts I've shown you, a little bit down on the Haaland one. But generally, the bell curve is suggesting should be about 10 points up on the average, a 50% chance of a big green arrow. I do like it. And that is, in essence, why I have ended up free hitting this week. If you look at my original side, it's just miles off, really, but especially with the doubts around Ndiaye and João Pedro. If they were both fine, maybe a little bit more tempting to hold fire, but I think there were enough just little things going wrong that it was worth playing for me. Okay, so let's answer a few more questions in the chat whilst I just keep my free hit in the background. I'm conscious I don't want to make this all about free hit, by the way, so if you've got questions off of free hit, do please ask. Nixie says, I think Muniz is being underpicked on free hit. He has expected good minutes and Leeds missing their keeper. Very true. Seems to be much weaker away than home. Raul Jimenez also played in Mexico, and obviously there's a bit of a travel home situation there. So, Nixie, I do actually agree on that. I do like Muniz this week. I just don't know if I like him more than... I mean, the two strikers I'm nailed on are Mateta and Gyökeres, so I wouldn't have Muniz ahead of either of them. I could have Muniz as my third, and probably not that far off, but I don't know. So if we just look at this draft here, and I put in Muniz personally, that would be the most likely place I'd do it. Let's say he starts over Reinders. What am I doing with that extra 2.2? Am I getting a major upgrade anywhere? Like, Defenders, I've pretty much maxed out. I don't think I'm getting much more bang for my buck out of my defense. I can't spend that money there. I can't get up to Haaland from Gyökeres. There's no striker, considering I can't get Ekitike because I've already got Van Dijk here. There's no striker I prefer than Mateta. And Gakpo up to Wirtz feels sideways. Semenyo up to who? So I think for me, Munoz is good, but I don't know if I'd have him ahead of that other third striker, considering there's nothing else I'd do with the money. So he would be in the mix for me. I also do think that he's likely to get 65, 70, and then Jimenez gets 20 at the end. So I'm just gonna, can I undo that one? Oh, I've reset the whole thing. I knew that would happen. Let's just go back over to that for now. I think I've actually still got that draft up back here. Yeah, so all good. So yeah, that's why no Munoz in my draft, but I do like him objectively as a differential pick. I think he is a good pick. So what else have we got? I need to scroll back. You guys are very good in the chat, so thank you for commenting. I really do appreciate it. Should I wildcard with Giu out? Some João Pedro a doubt. Porro and Sarr minutes risk. I don't think Porro's a minutes risk. Sarr's out. Watkins, Rogers. Yeah, maybe. It's hard to see without your entire team, but Iman possibly wildcarding. I mean, you could look at free hitting potentially if a lot of them are 1 week things. Like João Pedro is a 1 week problem, if that. He's probably okay. Porro, I wouldn't even call a problem. Sarr's out for a couple of weeks. Watkins, Rogers, you're gonna be happy enough with them from next week onwards. I don't think wildcard is needed. What else we got? Wouldn't go Haaland on a free hit, even though he did really well in the internationals. Yeah, he did, but that was against Moldova, right? So, I mean, Man United, as much stick as they get, are better than Moldova. So I would say that whilst it's tempting, he's obviously in good form right now, for what that's worth, but Premier League's a little bit different to Moldova. Obviously, he could score 5. He's Haaland. He can do it any week, but I think likelihood is it's not going to be another 5 goal, 2 assist game for Haaland. Harry says, evening. Good evening, Harry. So far this season seems like Liverpool points are shared, whilst Man City seems mainly Haaland. I completely agree, Lloyd. I do think that is correct. I just think the upside of the Burnley fixture is high enough. Also, let's not forget, Salah hasn't had a penalty yet and has had a quiet few game weeks, but it is still Salah. He's not going to end up on 0.25 XGI throughout the season. So I expect some sort of correction to the mean over time. And I expect Burnley to be a fixture that they can benefit from. So I wouldn't be going without Salah personally on a free hit. Although I do agree that Haaland is objectively a good pick this week. On wildcard, who's the best keeper? Salmon Lee asks. I would go Raya. Petrovic, I would say, is probably the best cheap keeper. But Raya for me would probably be my wildcard keeper. I made a wildcard video earlier this week, by the way, if you want to go check it out. And Raya was my keeper in all of the scenarios. But I don't hate Petrovic either, if you needed to save the money. Hi there, also on free hit with Haaland and Salah. That looks like a good side, Antonio. Can't really fault that. Senesi I like as a pick. Obviously very good on the Defcons. Martin says there's no semi-premium mids around, not for this week anyway. I agree. I think another reason I'm quite comfortable with going 4 at the back is because I don't love the options beyond options like 3 or 4 for midfielders. I like the first 2 in Gakpo and Salah. After that, it's one of, well, I mean, you could go with multiple, but I don't think any of them stand out enough that I'd go with multiple. So Semenyo, Undai until the doubt, Grealish maybe, Reinders, Barnes, Xavi Simons as well. I do quite like a few others. I had Madueke. I really like. He could sneak in on a free hit draft for me. I think his minutes going to be really good against Forest, and obviously scored in the international break. So riding that little bit of confidence wave, perhaps. Wirtz obviously isn't in this draft. Enzo Fernandez as well could be on penalties. So there are good options there. I just don't know if I'd have multiple of those. I think I could make peace with just having one of them and be fairly happy. especially because there's just more, it feels like there's more security in the back line this week than there would be in a normal game week. So that would be my logic there. But I do like all of those options I mentioned. I just probably wouldn't have any of them. Eze as well, Martin mentions just now. Yeah, good shout on Eze. A bit of a punt because we haven't seen him start yet. Martinelli's not just going to completely drift out and be put out to pasture. He's going to get minutes. So, but Eze's quality, like I do really like Eze. I'd just be a little bit worried about the minutes. But if you fancy taking a little bit of a risk on those and you fancy the upside, he's absolutely amazing. I do love Eze. So yeah, don't hate that whatsoever. Worth noting though on that, he was away for international duty. So I wonder how much time he's had with Arteta and with the squad to get drilled into the systems and therefore nail down a starting spot straight away. That might be overthinking it. He might just come straight in. But there's enough out there for me that I won't be picking him on a free hit, if that makes sense. But I understand why some would, because there is a chance that he starts and gets 70, 80 minutes and looks electric, because he is electric. Few other questions in the chat. Senesi or Gahey instead of Aina? I mean, Aina is out for 3 months, so I would be selling. I think for me, Rich, it would be, when are you looking at wildcarding? When are you looking at free hitting? If you're not looking at wildcarding for a long time, I would pick Senesi because I think he's going to be the better long-term hold. He looks an absolute monster on DEFCON. Bit of attacking upside there as well. Bournemouth defence looks decent over a long period of time. Whereas if you're looking at just the next 2 game weeks, then Gahey is probably ahead of Senesi for what I'd expect out of them. But that's if you're then looking at wildcarding maybe game week 6, 7. Whereas if you're wildcarding later on down the line, or you've already used your wild card, I'd say Senesi is probably the better long-term pick for me. So Nixie says, have many problems with my team. Same, mate, same. Ndai, Sar, JSL, same as me. Have to start Wood and probably get Goodmanson off the bench. That's not ideal, in fairness. Even if I make a transfer, if Ndai misses out, I think I might join you on free hit. Looking at that side, I free hit off of about the same sort of amount of problems. So obviously I'm not the gospel when it comes to FPL, far from it. But you know my opinion on it because that's what I've done. So yeah, I would be tempted to free hit in that situation as well, Nixie. Ben says, unlikely, but is Sharburn potential minutes risks with Botman being fit and a 4-3-3 is being played? I'd say Burn is more likely the risk than Shah, but I'd be pretty surprised if either of them missed out. It's always possible, and nothing's guaranteed in FPL, but I would be very surprised. I think I saw the Newcastle predictors predicting Shah and Burn both to start. I'd be shocked. But Botman is a great player, so he'll probably get minutes eventually, right? And he'll probably come in at some point in place of one of them. I would say Burn is probably the one that's most likely to drop out. I think it'd be incredibly harsh to drop Shah. Got Sar on the brain still. It's possible, but unlikely. Livramento, though, is the safe pick. I would be very shocked if Livramento didn't play. And he's been great. Former Saints player, of course. Harry says, cap Mateta, Gakpo, or Munoz. Differential, I like it. Mateta's got the penalties, so that's always going to give him the upside. Munoz, though, has got to be tempting. I'd say Gakpo maybe not so much because he's only got a couple of routes to points there, whereas Munoz has got the clean sheet, maybe DEFCON if he's very lucky, and of course gets the attacking upside as well. Mateta's got penalties. Yeah. I'd probably go penalties on Mateta, personally, but Munoz isn't far off either. Shah could be on penalties. I think it's unlikely. I would say Guimaraes probably takes them, but it's possible. It's definitely possible. And if he does, that would be incredible if I picked him on a free hit and he gets penalties as a defender. But no guarantee they even get a penalty either, so I don't want to overcook it. But yeah, Andrew, you're right. Shah, there is a possibility. So I'd say Burn is the most nailed. Likely Livra, Shah, Burn, Hall, Nixie says. I would say that's the most likely four, by the way, as well. I would agree on that four. I would say if any of them were to drop out directly for Botman, it would be Burn. Or actually, no, disservice. Sorry, I'll correct myself here. It would be Hall and Burn switches to fullback. That would be my prediction there. So yeah, I'll correct myself on that one. I think if anything were to happen that Botman started and they did play a back four, Hall, considering he's had the injury problems, would be the most likely one to drop. Burn would probably play fullback, Liver on the other side, and then Shah and Botman in the middle. I'm comfortable with that. Okay, cool. So, by the way, in the chat, how are we thinking my free hits looking, by the way, and which one do you prefer? So we've got this one. This one is my current one at time of recording. And I might as well show you my future plans. So this is, again, my future mapping with Solio. I've done a few drafts up here, which were just like to showcase what my free hit options are. This is the one I'm currently riding with right now. Going into next week, I don't think it looks that bad. I mean, the models are projecting I've got a 55% chance of a green arrow, so slightly above average, slightly above the crowd average, and above the mean. And that is if Saar is definitely out. If Strand Larsen is still a doubt, obviously if he gets better minutes, then what is it predicting? Like 78% chance of a start, then this could look a lot better. But, I mean, Ndai away at Liverpool, it's not great, but I think it's fine. In fact, oh, that's interesting. I should probably correct that. Minutes against Liverpool, I think, should probably go way up. He'll be fine by Liverpool. So, yeah, I mean, even better than that then. So, I'm looking at an okay side next week without a transfer. And ideally, I don't want to transfer because the following game week, ideally, I would use 2 free transfers to move across to Haaland and probably Reinders, although that could be Semenyo, that could be a few other options potentially. And then, again, a good-looking side on game week 6 with 3 transfers only. Got the best captain in Haaland. Got double Man City midfield, double Man City attack. West Ham at home for Everton. Double Forest at home to Sunderland. Porro at home to Wolves. I mean, it is just a great-looking side for game week 6, and it prevents me needing to wildcard that week. Then I would look at wildcarding in game week 7. Now, this is just an automated wildcard. Don't take this as my wildcard whatsoever, but it gives a sense of the strength of a wildcard in game week 7. You could look at Bruno, you could look at Haaland, you could look at Gyökeres, Palmer as well. You'll probably want by game week 9 when Palmer has a great run of fixtures. But yeah, that's my initial plan. I won't go beyond wildcard in game week 7 because there's just no point at the moment. But in game week 5, I can either make the decision to roll a transfer, or I could use a transfer and commit to wildcarding in game week 6 because I can only get to Haaland if I have 2 free transfers. Don't really want to take a hit before wildcarding. So if I did use a transfer in game week 5, let's say, I don't know, Salah's injured or Fernandes is injured or whatever, then I probably need to use a transfer. I could even use a transfer on Saar out to, let's say, I don't know, what have I got money for? Have I got money for Paqueta, maybe, this week? And then I could bench boost, potentially. It's not even off the cards. So I'm not going to undo it because I broke it last time I undid it. Although, yeah, no, it's fine. Okay, so I will undo it and then wildcard in game week 6. And then it's not quite as strong on that week in particular, but it sets me up nicely. So those are my plans really. So free hit this week, hopefully roll next week, and then either double swap, or if I haven't been able to roll the previous week, wildcard into game week 6. The other option was to free hit and then bench boost, as mentioned, and then again wildcard in 6 or 7, depending. But if I wildcarded in 7, then my side in game week 6 is without Haaland. It looks a little bit weaker. So that's my strategy, basically. Unconfirmed on the free hit, exactly as it stands, though. A few other people in the chat. By the way, do get your questions in. I'll probably be going for another 15-20 minutes, so if there are any questions to answer, I'll go through my favourite differentials of the week in a moment and remind everyone of injury news if you need to. Martin says he thinks he likes the 4-4-2 best. I think I might agree, you know. I think there's just something quite, like, fun, I guess, about triple Liverpool midfield. Like, no one's going to have that. No one's going to have all three. The only problem I suppose I have, and it's a minor one, and I don't know why it's even on my mind, but if, okay, let's say Liverpool win 2-3-0, but I think that's probably about expected. I haven't even done the worst case scenario, is that they like lose 1-0 and then my triple Liverpool midfield has just been awful, or they win 1-0 and only one of them returns and then I've missed out on the clean sheet as well. So there are multiple scenarios in which this doesn't work, but the upside is there. But let's say that they win 2-0, 3-0. Only one of them can get 3 bonus. Only one of them can get 2, and only one of them can get 1. So like there is a slightly more limited upside. Whereas if I spread my attacking assets around a little bit, then there's at least the potential that any of them, all of them, could get 3 bonus points. Whereas with this, it's all eggs in the Liverpool basket, and then the maximum bonus points I can get out of them is the 6. So 3, obviously I can double any of them for Salah, but there are 6 bonus points available. If everything goes my way, then I'm getting 6. Whereas if I spread it around a little bit, then I could get a few more bonus points across my 11. So that's a minor thing. I wouldn't be too worried, but that is one thing that's playing on my mind. I also do quite want Liverpool clean sheet because there is a high likelihood of them getting one. I mean, they're right up there with Newcastle and Arsenal. So it feels a little bit iffy to not have Liverpool covered. But the ownership's not that high. Like, it's not going to hurt me that much. Nixie asks, do you think there's a decent chance Wood doesn't start this week? I do. Mainly because of the travel, but also because it's new manager, right? And last year, I think after an international break, when I think it was Arsenal as well, although don't quote me on that, I think he got rested straight after an international break for this fixture. So there's a chance. It's not guaranteed he starts, especially with the new coach as well coming in. The new manager will probably want to favour the players that he's had a bit more of a look at during the week. So if he hasn't had a look at Chris Wood, and again, he might just have different ideas on maybe a more mobile centre forward. It would be harsh to just drop Wood straight away, considering he's a 20-goal striker last season, but it's not impossible, put it that way. I'd have him down as about 80 to 85% chance he starts, but there is a risk. Dan in the chat as well. Hey mate, how's it going? In 5, I'm going to need a SAR replacement. So in Gameweek 5, going to need a SAR replacement. Don't have enough for Semenyo. Me neither, unfortunately. Thinking of wildcard 7 and can bench boost in 6. So it really is a 1-week punt. Yeah, maybe Paqueta. Actually, whilst we're here, let's do this live. There's no need to wander. Let's go to midfielders in game week 5 even as a punt. So if we can't afford anything over, what was it? Semenyo 7.4. So let's go down to 7.3. Best midfielders: Mitoma, not loving it. Paqueta would probably be my instinct. Tielemans, Rodgers, quite like Rodgers. Who have they got in game week 5? It's Sunderland. Yeah, I quite like Rodgers. That could, if you've got the money for Rodgers. Maybe Jorginho could be on penalties for Brighton. Ruta, that is. Maybe Rice, but no. I don't know. The fixture's terrible. Dango, maybe? It's not looking amazing, is it? Maybe even Enzo away at Man United. I think Rodgers, maybe Paqueta. Paqueta or Rodgers for me. But yeah, it's looking a little bit iffy for best players that week as a replacement, but don't hate any of the options. Yeah, bench boost in game week 6 getting a few mentions in the chat here. I'm going to stop the poll, by the way. Let's end the poll, see what people's chips are. Yeah, bench boost getting a few mentions in the chat here. I haven't actually looked at bench boost 6. Is that something I need to be considering? I'm just going to look. Let's look here. Okay, yeah, I can't. I probably can't. Maybe, but so I haven't looked at it because I've got double Burnley away at Man City that week. There's no way I'm bench boosting. But if you don't have double Burnley, if you don't have Burnley, then much more appealing. Let's say, I don't know, you've probably got Leeds or something that week. Who have Leeds got that week? So not the most ideal way of checking. Leeds at home to Bournemouth. So yeah, you could bench boost with Leeds. Maybe Fulham in there, cheap defenders. Maybe Josh King's in there for you, but not for me because I've got it's situational. I've got Burnley double against Man City, so not going to happen. What else we got? So yeah, free hit. You should go with your gut a lot. Nixie, I completely agree. It should be a gut call on a free hit. It really, really should. And that I was saying to my podcast co-host Tom for who got the assist earlier. There are so many options, like so many options this week that are all expected, regardless of position, expected between about 4.5 to 5.1 points. So there's like half a point between them, and that's the same for like Gakpo to a little bit more, but Gakpo to Semenyo to Mateta to João Pedro to Van Dijk to Shah to Madueke to Barnes to Voltemada, maybe even Munoz you could put in there as well. There are just so many options, and as I said, I reckon there are 8 picks on my free hit that I'm pretty locked in on. But beyond that, those next 3, there's like half a point separating any of my preferred options. And that's where my gut is going to come into it, because there's not enough in it to say that this guy is like out and out a better pick than the other one. So I think a gut needs to come into it there, because you're going to regret not going with the one that you personally had a bit of a soft spot for. Harry says, I'm on wildcard game week 9. I haven't really looked at wildcard 9, but okay. Yeah, that Chelsea's fixture swing that week. Could be a good one to target, so I like that. Already used bench boost, free hit, and triple captain for the win. For later, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Game week 15 for free hit is one I like the look of. Way off in the future. Don't hate the Liverpool triple mids. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate it. It's the sort of move that you'd only do on a free hit, right? Marcus asks, and no worries, you didn't miss it earlier. Mateta or João Pedro on, well, I'm assuming free hit, but I don't know if you are on free hit. If you're on a free hit, I'd go Mateta, because he's on penalties, guaranteed. João Pedro might get penalties, but not guaranteed. Mateta's got the home slightly better fixture. Slightly, not much in it, but slightly. And there's a bit more of a minutes doubt over João Pedro, given the quotes from Maresca. If it's longer term, I would probably go João Pedro. Just about. I think Mateta for the next 2 I prefer, but João Pedro longer term I think is the better pick. But if you're on free hit, I would pick Mateta over João Pedro personally. I also wouldn't be against picking both of them. My current free hit does have both of them, but the minutes risk on João Pedro is playing on my mind enough that I might end up taking him out. But thanks for your question, Marcus. Okay, so if you're on a free hit, can't you fit Haaland? I looked at that earlier. I'll go back to this. So this would be my free hit if I had Haaland as well. I think it's sacrificing too much, personally. It brings in Anderson against Leeds, so you can target that a little bit, as you mentioned. But Haaland, I'll repeat myself a little bit, but Haaland, for me, is the best striker this week, but he's not so far ahead of Gyökeres or Mateta or Ekitike, João Pedro. He's not so far above them that it's worth the 5 million gap in the price. And that 5 million... I think is quite powerful this week to use elsewhere. So Reinders up to Semenyo. You can get a better defense. You can get a slightly better third. Well, you can get an extra attacker for one, and you can get that expensive extra attacker too. So, and Gyökeres is behind Haaland for me, but not so far behind that it's 5 million difference. So I do understand the temptation. And Tom, again, I'll repeat myself, who got the assist, is on a free hit draft with both Haaland and Salah, and it's not like the expected points are so far off that it's not worth doing. And also, you're not relying on too much to go right for it to be a great free hit. Like, all it takes is Haaland and Salah to both do really well, and you are flying. But if either one of them doesn't, you've sacrificed quite a lot elsewhere, so the risk is a bit higher. Whereas if I go back to the one I'm currently on, then the risk is a bit more spread. So if Gyökeres doesn't perform in that Haaland position, for 5 million less, it's not as much of a nightmare, because you've got an extra, you've got a bit more quality in depth, or depth of quality. So you can carry one failure there a little bit better than if it was Haaland, because you are really dependent on him getting points. And you're not captaining him, or maybe you are, but then you'd probably, if you're whichever one of Haaland or Salah you're not captaining, I'd probably sacrifice for the greater good of the team. That's just me personally, though. So again, like this is a chip that should be played in your own way. Midnight Mule in the chat. Hey mate, how's it going? Thank you very much for your good luck message. Fingers crossed it goes all right. I really would quite like a strong green arrow this week. Get up into the top million early on would be quite nice. I think I'm about 13 points off of top 1 million, so it would be lovely to get there by game week 5. Put me on the front foot, but we're not there yet. So Harry says, think Ange is going to be gone by Christmas. I mean, it is a pretty not risky appointment. I just think any manager going into Forest, there's always a risk that it doesn't last very long, because Marinakis does like to change things up. Nuno did a great job, but as soon as he started saying things publicly that the relationship had turned a bit sour, then he was always just going to go fairly soon. Ange is, I genuinely think Ange is a great manager, but he plays a high-risk style of play, and if it doesn't work quickly, I can see a universe in which Marinakis has a short amount, a very low amount of patience. So yeah, there are universes that it might not last very long, but there are also universes where it's very, very successful and Ange gets them a European trophy. So it could go either way, but yeah, there are high margins for error with that appointment, I think. Jemima Unicorn, hopefully that I've pronounced that correctly. I'm guessing it's Jemima. Welcome to the stream, and yeah, a free hit 5-2-3. Now, I was actually a little bit tempted by that. I now like enough of the midfielders that I do want a third, but that's just me. But yeah, I do not dislike it. I think there's a lot of power in the defense, and 5 at the back is not something I hate at all. But yeah, again, play it your own way. That is very different, and I like it, and it's definitely playable. There's nothing to suggest that it couldn't work this week. So what else we got? Oh yeah, Dan in the chat said I wasn't on bench boost. Yeah, sorry mate, I misunderstood you there. Yeah, good point. So when the picks are so close, personally think form is super important. I'm going to target Salah with Haaland and hide behind my big couch. I love that. Yeah, I mean, whichever one you go against, yeah, you're going to need a sofa, aren't you, every week with either of them, and just hope that you're on the right side of a bit of luck. Yeah, both are good picks this week. I mean, both are good captains this week. I personally have Salah ahead of Haaland, but Haaland is in great form. And when the picks are close, like you said, form is another factor you can use to kind of swing towards one player rather than the other. Nixie also makes a good point. Haaland is the last game of the game week. I had actually forgotten that. And City being last up is scary, because I'm gonna, if I went with this free hit, or indeed the other free hit I'm likely to go with, which is this one. Is that not oh yeah, there we go. Okay, that took a while to load. Yeah, so that one, yeah, no City, no Man United. So I need my green arrow to be absolutely huge going into the final game, because there are big ownership worries on Reinders, Haaland, Fernandes even as well. It's going to be problematic. I'm not going to enjoy that last game. So yeah, but I'm trying not to play FPL in that way. As horrible as it is at the time, I try to play it just looking at what I think will score the most points, regardless of when the games are played. Tom in the chat as well. Hey mate, how's it going? Considering Milenkovic, who I'd need to be playing, out for Tark, what we thinking? Yeah, I think that makes sense. Have you got Palace defense already? Maybe Senesi as well, if you want someone a bit cheaper and with better fixtures as well than Tark. I do really like Tark. I've got him in my squad and I'm happy enough with him long term. All I would say is, I don't expect him to get DEFCON every week, which he has done so far. So that's maybe like buffing him up a little bit in people's minds. But he is very good. I just don't know how many of the fixtures I'm expecting clean sheets in over the next run. But if you're not wildcarding for ages and ages and ages, he's probably the one of, if not the best long-term defender to have, because he's so likely to get DEFCON. The clean sheet odds are always generally pretty good with Everton. And if you're disregarding fixtures because you're like looking long-term, then he's a great pickup. But if you don't have Senesi, I'd be very tempted with Senesi. Because he offers a lot of what Tarkowski does for less and with probably equaling, if not slightly better fixtures, or if you don't have Palace, them as well. Or Anderson. Lots of good options on DEFCON at the moment. David says, would you swap Palmer and Strand Larson for Gakpo and Gyökeres or another combination? If you're not on free hit, then, well, it depends how many transfers you've got and what your bench is looking like. So I would try not to take a hit if at all possible. But yes, in principle, if those are free moves that you're talking about, I would accept that and say those are good moves. I would say I would probably go with, if you're not free hitting, if you're not wildcarding for a while, I would probably go Semenyo over Gakpo, but it is close. And Gyökeres, yeah, I like Gyökeres. But is there anyone else? 2 free transfers and on free hit. Okay, thank you, David. Okay, 2 free transfers and on free hit. So free hit, yeah, Gyökeres is probably a good one to have if you're free hitting 6 because you can avoid one of the poor Gyökeres fixtures, and then you'll have him for afterwards when Arsenal have got a good run. So yes, that has confirmed my thinking. I would go with Gyökeres. Gakpo, also fine. I also like Semenyo. Either or, but yeah, nothing wrong with Gakpo either. Been watching Leipzig for a fair bit, and almost all creative outlet went through Xavi Simons, both goals and assists. What's your take on Spurs punts for the next 5 game weeks? Really, I do really like Xavi. I'm not a million miles away from having him in over Semenyo this week. Probably a good opportunity to talk about those options as well in a second, but I do like Xavi. I'm just such a cautious manager. I always get burnt when I take a risk like that on whether or not they're going to actually start. Every Spurs FPL player that I've spoken to and listened to, so Baker and Adam on above average, both think he'll start, and they need him to start this game week, as in Spurs need him to start. However, he is a new signing, so there's always a doubt, I suppose. But I would be quite surprised if he didn't play, and I do like him long term. I guess I wouldn't be secure enough to pick him outright as a transfer in. Maybe on a free hit, I'd be a little bit more tempted. Kudus, I think, is fine, playing a little wide for my liking, but is fine and pretty nailed for minutes. I wouldn't be looking at Richarlison, wouldn't be looking at Kolo Muani, wouldn't really be looking at anyone else at the moment in the attacking options. Porro I like at the back, Van de Ven I like at the back. But Xavi might be the answer long term. I just probably wouldn't be punting on him just yet. Maybe on a free hit. I would be more tempted, as I am, on a free hit to have a look at Xavi Simons in that Semenyo spot. But again, I think the goal threat is mixed with the assist threat, whereas Semenyo, Madueke as well seem like more leaning, and Barnes seem like more leaning towards the goal threat, and I want to attack the upside a little bit. So I think I might end up on one of them rather than Xavi this week, but that's free hit. Yeah, Dan, actually, good shout. If Xavi Simons plays game week 4, looks good. Game week 5, he could be the punt on a free. For game week 5. I really like that. I will keep that in my mind as well. Nixie says Kudus goal threat just ain't it. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to be 0 either. Like, I don't want to overplay this and become the guy who just says Kudus is never going to score a goal. Like, he will get goals. It's just when there are other players at his price point who are on penalties and with a bit better open play goal threat, it does just make me look elsewhere. So Undai is like the reason I went Undai over Kudus in Game Week 1 is because of the open play goal threat and the penalties. Now we've got Paqueta, we've got Jorginho Ruta as well, maybe Tielemans, slightly less likely, but possibly, maybe Enzo Fernandez as well. All of those players have shades of penalties, different likelihoods there, but then also decent open play goal threat, and it just puts me off Kudus a little bit. But he will tick over with returns, he will get assists, he will get the odd goal here or there, and it's not out of the realms of possibility that Thomas Frank starts trying to mould him into a Mbermo style player where he plays through the centre a little bit more. So long term, I still have got my eye on him, and I can see a world in which his goal threat goes up, but right now he is playing a bit wide for me. Okay, cool. I've made some notes before this, so I'm just going to check my notes before saying I'm going to wrap up any in the immediate future in case I've missed anything. But I think we're pretty much covered off. The only thing I haven't really asked anywhere near enough, as I never do, is if you are enjoying the stream, I'd really appreciate it, and it would really mean a lot if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Importantly, I'm trying to get to 5,000 before Christmas. I'm a little way. I think I'm like 400 and something off at the moment. I will check that now just to get it right. What am I off? Yeah, I'm about 430 off. So I'm a little way off, but I would really appreciate it if I could get a bit closer to it before Christmas. I was targeting 5k. It would mean a lot. But yeah, thank you anyway. And I'll leave it open for another couple of minutes in case any other questions come through. Whilst I'm leaving it open before I go, a quick reminder of my free hit drafts I'm considering. So this one would be like the ultra aggressive Ekatike with double Liverpool midfield, Shah in as well. So no Liverpool defence there, but triple attack. Semenyo stays, although Semenyo could be Madueke, could be Barnes, maybe less so on Barnes, could be Enzo Fernandez, could be Reinders, could be Semenyo would be the preferred. Maybe I don't know who else. Simons as well, possibly. But I think Semenyo is probably leading at the moment. Maybe a little bit ownership going into that, especially if I'm going away from João Pedro. Covering off at least one of the higher owned players would be quite sensible, I guess. Then the other free hit, again, nothing to separate these two in terms of expected points and upside. This would be the triple Liverpool midfield with Shah at the back. I like this as well, but it's very eggs in one basket. Double Newcastle defence, double Crystal Palace defence. Goals in both those games are not impossible. Clean sheet wipeouts are not impossible, so that could be in the mud quite quickly. And then the only other thing that needs to happen for this to really look terrible is Liverpool to have a bit of an off day in front of goal. And then if those three things happen, this free hit is in tatters. So it is quite dependent on a lot going right or specific things going relatively well. And then there is, of course, the Haaland free hit, which I think I'm unlikely to do, but I just wanted to show just in case. And then finally, there's the there's the free hit I'm currently on as well, which is João Pedro in, but I am a little bit wavering on that because of the expected minutes. So Nixie asked preferred Devaney, or King for bench cover. I would say King. The reason on a free hit, that is, the reason for that is you're probably not going to have triple Fulham, but there is strong or relatively strong argument to have three other Palace starting for you. So I've got Munoz, Lacroix, Mateta, but you could also be looking at Henderson, you could be looking at Gahey, you could be looking at Richards, Mitchell, even arguably. There are other options. So you don't want to lock yourself out of triple Palace unless you are certain you're only going to go with double Palace in your starting lineup, in which case Devaney maybe. But I still think I prefer King, honestly. So I think King is the answer for me. Jemima says free hit with two midfielders and Haaland starting. I don't hate that at all. So if I go back here, I suppose the way I would do that would be, yeah, you bring... Oh, no, don't do that. Oh, my God. So it'd be something like that. And then it would probably have to be Gakpo down to... Who haven't I got? Is it King? No, I've got King. Dewsbury Hall. No. Who else? Who am I missing? So it'd have to be King, Dewsbury Hall. Oh no, I've got all of them. Where would I find the money to make this a decent option? I guess Muniz. And then I just have to find 0.5. So it's possible. I don't hate it. It's definitely not that bad. I'd have to find 0.5 somewhere. I don't know where I'd find it. I mean, I'd actually probably Reinders down, wouldn't it? It would have to be Reinders down to like any old midfielder you could afford, really. Lukic, maybe. I've got too many Fulham. Something like that. Something like that. Adams. Let's say Adams. I don't think that looks that bad. I mean, it's expected to do pretty well still. It's just for me the lack of being able to captain both of them. That would put me off a little bit. But yeah, that would be the way I'd go if I was something like that. Take Virgil down and get Ekatike. Yeah, could do. So yeah, Virgil. Who'd Virgil end up being? I mean, if you went really cheap, it could be Rodon, not the end of the world. And then you could get Ekatike instead of Mateta. Can you afford that? Yes, you can. I mean, that's pretty aggressive, right? You've got triple Liverpool attack. I mean, you've got enough money to upgrade Rodon to Senesi, maybe. It's pretty good. It looks pretty good. This is what I mean. Like, free hits should be played on vibes a little bit. Like, I can't sit here and tell you this is the perfect free hit because things can happen in any game week. Like, Liverpool might just blank. They might not score that many goals against Burnley. It can happen. So it's impossible to know what the best one is. It is important to go with your gut a little bit. I would say, like I've said throughout the stream, I've got 8 picks that I would be very worried if I personally went without them. Some of them are like positional picks. So like Pope as the Newcastle cover. Doesn't have to be Pope, but I would want Newcastle cover. But my 8 that are locked, I would say on a free hit are Pope, Munoz, Lacroix, Gabriel, in midfield, Salah, Gakpo, up front, Mateta, Gyökeres. The 3 final picks that I'm deciding between are Van Dijk, Semenyo, João Pedro. And that could be different combinations of positions as well. So it doesn't have to be a 4-3-3. I could take out a forward from João Pedro and put that into midfield, and that would end up looking probably like this with 4 midfielders, 2 up top, and Shah comes in instead of Van Dijk. Or it could be 5 at the back very easily. So yeah, plenty of combinations I like the look of. But with that, I think the most likely one I'm going to go with at the moment is probably this. Probably triple Liverpool midfield, although it's very, very tight. Do make sure you subscribe or follow me on the social channels, though, because I'll post my team before the deadline, because I'm not locked in yet. This isn't a deadline stream, so I can't lock in now. I will do some more thinking about it overnight, but I think, like I said, 8 of them I'd be very surprised if I moved around too much. That Pope position is basically just a Newcastle defender. So it might end up being Livramento or Shah or whatever, and then maybe Raya in goal, or Alisson in goal, whatever. But I think this is most likely the combination, and then those 3 final positions can move around. But as always, if you've enjoyed today's stream, thank you so much for commenting. Thank you so much for interacting. I've really appreciated it. I've had a great time chatting with you all. I'd really appreciate it as well if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. But for the time being, I wish you all the best going into Game Week 4. And I'll see you on the other side as well. Do feel free to drop a comment in the chat, and I'll try and get back to any other questions I haven't answered before the deadline. And of course, do go follow me on the social channels for my final free hit side. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you all so much. I'm going to go grab some dinner, and I hope you all have a fantastic weekend full of very green arrows. Anyway, I'll see you later, guys.